Standing before the altar, Snake tried to absorb what he'd just learned. A statue of Christ on the cross looked down upon Snake and Big Mama from its place above the altar. Blood flowed from where the crown of thorns cut into his forehead. I'm just like that statue. Is that what Snake thought as he looked upon it? A powerful symbol for the apostles. Needless to say, Snake wasn't Jesus Christ. He hadn't died for all the sins of mankind. Snake was just a living statue born from one man's obsession. But Big Mama hadn't fought on behalf of that faith.
You fought for Big Boss,
Snake said.
But what about Ocelot? Why did he join with you? What did he fight for?
The same as me. Big Boss. He didn't fight for the Pentagon or the Russians, and certainly not for Zero. Ocelot was dedicated to Big Boss. He idolized him.
When I think about it, Ocelot had a terribly complex role on Shadow Moses. He participated in the rebellion with Foxhound and was a spy for the Patriots. But his real goal was to outmaneuver the Patriots, bury one of their founders, and retrieve Big Boss's body. And now his body was controlled by Liquid. Big Mama said,
We can't allow Liquid to inherit the same sins that corrupted Zero, manipulating people's minds for the sake of his own ego.
Just then, the sanctuary doors opened. Snake and Big Mama reflexively spun to face the intruder, a lone man in a buttoned-up trench coat and a hat lowered over his eyes. He looked like he'd just walked in from a noir movie. The resistance fighters raised their guns, a hive of bees ready to strike. But Snake felt something was wrong. The coat fell to the floor and the silhouette of the man crumpled and split off. The rebels yelled in surprise. I couldn't blame them. The supposed man was really 3 small surveillance robots standing on each other's shoulders, like 3 kids in a trench coat pretending to be a grown-up. Each robot was a black orb the size of a bowling ball, with 3 long, slender humanoid arms. They shed their disguise and scattered across the floor and up the walls. Big Mama said, "Give!" and took a gun from one of the young fighters. Immediately, she shot one of the robots on the wall. Then she moved her gun in one smooth arc and fired shots at the other 2. The robots skittered across the room with infuriating dexterity, but within seconds after the first had fallen, Big Mama's unerring aim finished them off. The resistance fighters exchanged troubled looks, some biting their lips.
Scarabs,
one said.
Unmanned scouts.
Without emotion, Big Mama said,
They found us. We're moving out.
Either this was a frequent occurrence, or she was handling it gracefully so as not to rattle her men. Her reaction impressed Snake. Now he knew why this woman who called herself his mother had so many followers. From the satellite image feeds and the density of wireless transmissions, I could see the PMC were quickly converging on the monastery. I told Snake they would be on him in less than 5 minutes. Big Mama headed outside to the vehicles. The resistance fighters were already preparing their escape. She walked up to the driver's side of one and asked the driver,
Are they ready?
As they can be.
Big Mama lowered her voice.
We'll send the real one through the canal route. Get it ready. Hurry.
Yes, ma'am.
The gecko's cries rang through the air, and all eyes turned to the bright moonlit sky. The howls of man-made beasts filled the empty streets. Snake knew the situation was about to get bad. There wasn't even time for a smoke. Big Mama called him over to a row of motorcycles beside a garage. Some already had riders warming up the engines. As she walked into the garage, she said,
We've got decoy vans set to draw some of our pursuers away.
At the rear of the space, a motorcycle slumped beneath a tarp. Eva threw aside the cover. Dust flew off the plastic and danced across the beams of moonlight coming in through the windows.
She's a Triumph,
Big Mama announced. The bike was a T120, designed in 1959 and the first of the Bonneville models. It had retained a persistent popularity. Even in the 21st century, its parts were still sought for tuning. At one time, auto race riders, believing the Triumph engines would bring out the best of their racing abilities, competed over Triumph engineering engines. A vintage bike suited Big Mama, beauty and power combined. She rolled the motorbike outside and indicated the resistance fighters' quiet, frenzied preparations with her eyes.
They're all orphans, she said softly. As children, they all worked in arms factories. And when they grow up, they want to join a PMC. They seek revenge on other companies, the PMCs that killed their parents. Their pay goes to support their younger siblings. There are countless child soldiers in the PMCs.
Much like Raiden. What happened to Raiden as a child seemed to me the worst act one human could do to another. But that was only the very beginning. He was sent to America, where he joined the army. He was put in the Patriots' fake Foxhound unit and underwent endless VR training.
Nowadays, Big Mama said, anyone with access to the net can get combat training. The PMCs distribute popular FPS games for free. Of course, it's all just virtual training. It's so easy for kids to get absorbed by these war games.
In order to recruit personnel, the PMCs had to lay the proper groundwork within the culture. They needed a culture that raised children who were ready to leap into war. By cultivating that culture, they could secure the manpower to carry the future of their industry.
And before they know it, they're in the PMCs holding real guns. These kids end up fighting in proxy wars that have nothing to do with their own lives. They think it's cool to fight like this. They think that combat is life.
She gave Snake a hard look.
They don't need a reason to fight. After all, for them, it's only a game.
It's the war economy.
Snake's face twisted with disgust. That's not to say that past wars weren't about making money. When kings and lords reached past their own borders, it was always about money. What Snake abhorred was the hiding of the seas of blood and the stench of rotting meat under a sterile cover. What they called an economy was really just war. Same as always. The children had been blinded to the nauseating realities of war. The image of the battlefield became sterilized. The groundwork was being laid for a world in which all people fought in proxy wars. Big Mama spoke with a low, forceful voice.
Zero is the cause of all this. Defeating Liquid won't change things. Unless we stop the Patriots system, the cycle will continue unbroken.
She stepped on the pedal, and the vintage bike roared to life, its engine humming and vibrating, a noise wholly like the creepy, unnatural roar of the gecko. This was a real machine, rough-hewn and comforting. Big Mama beckoned Snake to sit behind her, and he did. She took a moment, absorbing in the noise of the idling engine, then let out a sigh of ecstasy and said,
With so many wars being waged, oil and biofuel have become as precious as diamonds. It's been a while since I went out for a ride.
Are you sure about this?
She threw him an over-the-shoulder grin.
I only get off my bike when I fall in love or fall dead.
Then Snake saw it in her eyes. Saudade, yearning for something that is lost. Perhaps she saw Big Boss's face in the man who was both her son and a clone.
Call me Eva.
She signaled the departure, and her fighters raced out the open gate.